Friends, welcome to today's Monday of Holy Week, brief overview and inspiration from the last week Jesus walked on earth before his death, according to the Gospel of Mark. Bible texts to reflect on today are Mark 11:12-19, Jeremiah 7, and Jeremiah 26. Today's theme is A Fig Tree Dies Tragically, the box of falsehoods on our life's shelves. A quick thought, Mark often works in his gospel with different frames. For example, he will start a story, let's call it Alpha 1. Stop this story, start a new story, let's call it Beta, stop it somewhere, and return to the first story, Alpha 1, but in a new form known as Alpha 2. So, you need Alpha 1 and Beta to understand Alpha 2. You need to see here that these stories happen over each other. On Monday and Wednesday in the last week, we have such a story in Mark's version. Mark 11:12-14, curse on the fig tree and the disciples hear it, Alpha 1. The next day, as they were leaving Bethany, Jesus was hungry. Seeing a fig tree and leaf in the distance, he went to find out if it had any fruit. When he reached it, he found nothing but leaves because it was not the season for figs. Then he said to the tree, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again." And his disciples heard him say it. Mark 11:15-19, Jesus overturns the tables in the temple, Beta. On reaching Jerusalem, Jesus entered the temple courts and began driving out those buying and selling there. He overturned the money changers' tables and the benches of those selling doves and would not allow anyone to carry merchandise through the temple courts. And as he taught them, he said, "Is it not written, 'My house will be called a house of prayer for all nations'? But you have made it a den of robbers." The chief priests and the teachers of the law heard this and began looking for a way to kill him, for they feared him because the whole crowd was amazed at his teaching. When evening came, Jesus and his disciples went out of the city. Mark 11:20-21. The fig tree story continues and Peter remembers, Alpha 2. In the morning they saw the fig tree withered from the roots as they went along. Peter remembered and said to Jesus, "Rabbi, look, the fig tree you cursed has withered." Mark wants us to understand these two stories together so that what happened with the fig tree and what happened in the temple are related. Monday first, Jesus and his disciples are on their way to Jerusalem again after spending the night in Bethany, just outside the city. They want to eat figs from a tree, but there are no figs, and he curses the tree. Interestingly, the season was not right for figs, and Jesus knew this, so we must read this part metaphorically. The frames of the temple and the fig tree want to warn us that the temple is the central problem in both cases. The problem is the absence of the fruit that Jesus expected to be present. But what was wrong with the temple? As in Jeremiah 7, there is a strong emphasis that you should not seek security in the temple. As such, you cannot just live as you please and commit injustice upon injustice every day. Such people are called robbers and then just go to church and think you are okay with Jesus if you ask for forgiveness. This warns us to move away from this false temple security we create. Yes, also for you and me today. So the temple does not become a place that is robbed, but where robbers go for shelter. It becomes a pious place that no longer has credibility in the community. Jeremiah is clear that God rejects your worship because of your injustices, but God will never reject your righteousness because of an absence of worship. See for yourself. Amos 5:21-24, Hosea 6:6, Micah 6:6-8, Isaiah 1:11-17. The message is clear in Jeremiah 7. If the temple is used as a place where robbers, yes, just ordinary people who commit injustice in their lives, hide and worship and then return to their usual old things of injustice, God will destroy that temple. Then in Jeremiah 26, there is an angry reaction from the authorities against Jeremiah. How can Jeremiah say this? God will never destroy his own house. They wanted to kill him for this. Back to Mark 11:15-18. Here is an action and a teaching. This combination is typical of prophetic symbols. It is essential to know that the currency exchangers, those who exchange money for temple tax, and sellers of animals, these are anointed animals ready for offerings, were wholly legitimate and necessary for the temples functioning. That is how it worked there. People often use this text to say nothing may be sold on church grounds, but that is not true. So why does Jesus interrupt the temple's legitimate functioning? The first frame alpha 1 overlaps beta. The tree is closed because it bears no fruit. Now the temple is symbolically closed because there is no fruit. So this den of robbers that Jesus quotes from Jeremiah 7:26 does not mean that injustice is committed in the temple, but rather that the temple becomes a refuge and hiding place for your soul after you have committed injustice elsewhere. God will reject his church if it becomes the hiding place of injustice. What is the point of the Monday events? Jesus proclaims the already present kingdom of God against both the already present Roman imperial power and the already present Jewish high priestly conspiracy. Jerusalem must be reclaimed by a loving Messiah rather than a violent revolution, and the temple ritual must affirm justice rather than an excuse away from it. Jesus is against the violent system of dominance by Rome and the conspiracy of the temple that cooperates with it. Jesus stands with Zechariah against the imperial entry and power, as we discussed on Sunday, and with Jeremiah against the temple's conspiracy with injustice. He also stands against the type of Christianity that has been used throughout the ages to support imperial violence and injustice. What does your temple look like today? What is going on there? Yes, from your taxes to your friendships, parenting, and how you move among strangers. Are you playing hide and seek here in the church? Or are you sharing with integrity God's dream for all people, the good news that changes the world over and over and over? What does this text mean for your daily life with Jesus? If you haven't yet or have lost your way, don't you want to surrender to Jesus and thus serve the kingdom of God with all your gifts, talents, and abundance? Because this world needs you now, right where you live, where you work, and where you play. Well, tomorrow we will discuss the Tuesday events. Until then, stay strong, hold on, and keep walking with Jesus this week. Until then, take care.